We are at the midway point of the college football season, which means it's time for progress reports.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's Jase medical.com. Locked On Buffs is brought to you by the Locked On Network. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. It's your team every single day. Let's dive right into your team, the Colorado Buffaloes. We are 6 games into the season for Colorado and most teams across the country, if not all. And it is time for progress reports. Now, I got inspired by CBS Sports. They did a Pac-12 report card, and they graded every team in the Pac-12. So we'll go through those just real quick. And then I'm going to give Colorado my personal grade, and then I'm going to go through position groups and give them grades as well. So Arizona got a B+, Arizona State a C, California C, Colorado A, Oregon A+, Oregon State A-, UCLA B-, or B+, USC a C, Stanford a D, Utah B-, Washington A+, and Washington State A-. I think, and this is there's not much to change here for Colorado. I would say it's an A+ though. And when you ask why, or you think about why would this be an A+, Colorado is expected to win 3 games, which we talked about multiple times throughout the season. Our sponsors over at FanDuel provided us these lovely win total odds, and Colorado's win total is 3.5. And obviously they're sitting at 4-2, so they've already hit that mark. And they seem to be on track to double that mark, if not more. And so I think for that reason, Colorado has to be higher. I think there was a lot of doubts as to how Shedeur Sanders would adjust to this level, how Coach Prime would adjust to the Power 5 level, how his roster full of transfers would adjust to the Power 5 level, or just adjust to being all together. A lot of the more Power 5 players, just how they adjust to meshing together. And to say that they've adjusted well would be an understatement. They beat a ranked team in TCU. They beat a tough Nebraska team. They beat an in-state rival team in Colorado State that was gunning for them, gave them all they had. They were blown out by Oregon, which Oregon, obviously, they got an A+ because they're probably one of the best teams in the Pac-12, one of the best teams in the country in general. And then they almost beat a USC team who should be one of the best teams in the conference and should be one of the best teams in the country, but isn't always performing like it. And Colorado pushed them to the brink and showed just how good they could be. And so I think for that reason, I would go A+ because the expectations were so low, or I don't say they were low, but yeah, they were low. People were doubting Colorado. They were doubting what Coach Prime could do at this level, and he's exceeded them. And also, he's brought attention to the program. Colorado is the most watched team in the country this year. They have stars like Kawhi Leonard on the sidelines, Michael Irvin, Terrell Owens. Today, prior to recording this, I go on Twitter and I see that Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos from the Philadelphia Phillies are rocking Deion Sanders Coach Prime merch prior to their ALDS game against the Atlanta Braves. And so his reach has also helped boost this grade to an A+ because he has made Colorado relevant as ever. They are the most popular team in college football right now. And I think I always say this, it's one thing to be bad, and it's one thing to be bad and it's one thing to be relevant, but Colorado was bad and irrelevant last season, and now they're the most relevant. They are the pinnacle of college football. They are the epicenter of college football, and I think that's all a tribute to Coach Prime and what he's done. So now let's grade the individual position groups. We'll go offense, defense, special teams, and then I'll go quarterbacks, receivers, linemen, and then I'll do each position group. So we'll go units first. Offense as a unit, B-. And you're probably thinking, how is this possible? They have a top 50 offense in the country in total offense. That's exactly why. I think this offense has A caliber potential, but the run game has not been what it needs to be. They put a lot of pressure on Shedeur Sanders. And the offensive line, speaking of putting pressure on Shedeur Sanders, they are the worst offensive line in the Power 5. It is literally based off the stats. They are one sack away, I think it is, from allowing the most sacks in the country, trailing only Old Dominion. And so it has been disastrous for an offensive line. They're lucky Shedeur Sanders is so savvy in the pocket and such a smart quarterback, because if he wasn't, this team would be 1-5 by this point. They are horrible, horrendous. They struggle with pass blocking. They can't create gaps for running backs. It is just all around a rough unit. Something that Coach Prime has addressed himself, and it's something that Colorado is probably going to be addressing in the transfer portal this offseason again, and bring in 5 new guys, because I don't know what else to say about the offensive line. They're a big concern just about every week, and they continue to prove every week why they're a big concern. They've blocked in big moments, they've held up, but no, just ridiculous. Wide receivers, I'd give them an A. You have guys like Xavier Weaver, who I talked about all offseason, as someone who I thought would be a star. He's kind of emerged as the number one guy. Then Jimmy Horn Jr. was the guy that was getting all of the hype in the offseason, because obviously he was there during spring ball. He is someone who I think is a game changer. I think I want to see more from Jimmy. I feel like we're seeing a lot from him, but I just want to see him in open space more. Obviously, that's just nitpicking. Him and Xavier are top 2 in the country in catches with 43 and 39. Jimmy has more touchdowns. And I think they have a lot more to offer. Marion Miller is a rising star that we saw against USC. And then we also have seen guys like, obviously, Travis Hunter, who, when healthy, is one of the best players in the country. And so obviously him being there is a big one. Javon Antonio came on strong this past game against Arizona State. And then I'm trying to think if I'm missing anybody. Tavares Dawson has not had nice moments. And so, yeah, that wide receiver group A, I think they're probably the best group on the team as a position unit. And then tight ends. Well, one tight end in particular. There's only one tight end with the catch. So I'm gonna go Michael Harrison. I'm gonna give him, and I guess the tight end groups, because blocking wise, the tight ends are also responsible. So they take a hit there, because they also need to help protect Shedeur a little bit better. But as a pass catcher, Michael Harrison has done great. I'm gonna give him a B+. I think he really emerged as kind of a unexpected star, or not a star, like a star for Colorado. Like, he's not like a household name by any means, but he's someone who has played a pivotal role for Colorado. Sean Lewis's offenses don't typically rely on tight ends, but he is proving to be one of the better ones, and he's proving to be one of Shedeur's favorite targets, kind of like his safety blanket. Running backs, I'm going to go C. We'll go C-, maybe a C. They haven't. I always say this, and people get on me because their rush totals factor in all the sacks that Shedeur takes, which obviously he's the second most sacked quarterback in the country. As a team, they have 472 yards rushing, 2.5 yards per carry, 8 rushing touchdowns, which Shedeur leads the team with 3. So if you want to take out Shedeur's rushing, you want to take out his negative yards from sacks, also take out his rushing touchdowns. So then I look at the running backs, and there's 3 touchdowns combined between 3 running backs. There's 3 guys with 1. Dylan Edwards has 1. Hankerson has 1. And Sivion Wilkerson has 1. Alton McCaskill has 6 carries for 22 yards. And then Charlie Offerdahl only has 2 carries for 11 yards. And then Tavares Dawson and Xavier Weaver both have rushing touchdowns. So this unit has left a lot more to be desired. Let's just call it a spade a spade. They have not produced well. They haven't been game changer. Teams don't respect Colorado's run game at all, which I think is why they're so hell-bent on getting to Shedeur Sanders, because they know that there's not a run game that will kind of punish them. Now, I will say Anthony Hankerson has stepped up lately and kind of proven to be, I would say he's been the lead back, I guess you could say. He had 10 carries for 58 yards against ASU. Got his first touchdown of the season against USC, rushing for 74 yards. But this unit, I expected way more from. I thought we'd see a lot of Kavosi smoke. He has 2 carries in the season for -2 yards. So this unit has been pretty much a letdown. I thought it would be one of the deeper ones on the team, and they're just kind of meh. And then Shedeur Sanders, A++, leads the country in passing, one of the most, efficient passers in the country. He makes huge throws, has strong arm. He's clutch. If we've seen it twice this year, almost 3 times. You give Shedeur Sanders 2 or less minutes and you haven't sealed the game, he's going to lead Colorado to a win. He's done it twice. He's as clutch as it gets. And I think now we've seen it 3 times. I guess we could count TSU. So 3, almost 4 times, because that USC one, I think had he not, I don't know if he forgot or just made the mistake of calling timeouts when they didn't, or not calling timeouts, running the ball when they didn't have timeouts. I think they could have maybe at least had a comeback effort against USC in that last couple drives, but unfortunately they didn't. But either way, Shedeur Sanders has taken this offense to a whole nother level. He's the sole reason this offense is kind of where they are, because he's just performing at an elite level. He's kind of cemented himself as a number 1 draft pick, and it's hard to blame anyone for seeing that. And it's hard to blame people for being like, wow, he's one of the best, because he is performing like one of the best. Defensively, let me get to where this team ranks defensively. So total defense, they are, let's see, I think they're towards the bottom. Yep. So total defense wise, they are ranked as the worst defense in Power 5, 127th in the country, with only Colorado State, North Texas, and Nevada below them. All 3 of those teams are what they are. Colorado gives up 465 yards per game. They have given up more touchdowns than their offense, which is obviously, like I said, one of the best passing offenses in the country. They've given up more touchdowns than they've scored touchdowns, and they give up 6.26 yards per play. So essentially, every team is getting a first down on them in 2 plays. This defense has had big moments. I think their secondary has had a lot of, like, let's just say their secondary kind of boosts them a little bit, because they are a turnover forcing machine. They forced 12 turnovers this year, which ranks 10th in the country. And I think there's a lot to be said about what they can do. They're a big play defense, and so for that reason, I'd give them a D plus. And I would give them a D, but they do make a lot of big plays. It's just they're so big play reliant. We've seen teams torch them. We've seen, and it's not just like Pac-12 teams that are like, oh, this team's really good. Like Colorado State, for instance, Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, I believe is how you say his last name. He threw for 306, freshman quarterback, threw for 367 yards. Colorado State had 3 receivers with over 100 yards. That can't happen. Then you look at a team like Arizona State this past week. Did they slow down Arizona State's strong running game? Yeah, they did. But they also allowed Trent Bourget, to throw for 335 yards, 1 touchdown. And they were torched by Elijah Badger, 12 catches for 134 yards. Oregon obviously absolutely demolished them. Bo Nix threw for 276 yards, 3 touchdowns. They ran for 240 yards. Like, there's just so much wrong with this defense. It's so big play reliant. They struggle to get to the quarterback consistently. They struggle to prevent receivers from making big plays. And now, granted, I do think that this unit would benefit if Travis Hunter was there, because obviously he's the best player on the team and he's been out for the past few games, but that's the grade. So defensive line, I'm going to go, let's see. I think the defense line is one of the main issues. I think they kind of set the tempo for the defense. So if they're getting pushed off the line and they're just kind of not, I don't know how, like, they're not causing havoc, then the rest of the defense is going to be forced to struggle. If quarterbacks are given a lot of time to throw, then obviously the defense line is making everybody's life more difficult. So in terms of the defense line, I'm going to give them and then when you look up how many sacks they have, they're currently at, let's see. Sorry, my computer's loading. Here we go. Colorado, they rank 56th in the country with 14. So they have improved, but I would go D plus, C minus. I think they struggle to stop the run game, and they struggle to consistently get pressure on quarterbacks. And when they do, it helps the defense a lot, but when they don't, it's pretty ugly. Linebackers, C minus, I guess. I think Juwan Mitchell has had some bright moments. He didn't play at all this past game. I think they've been banged up. I think this linebacker group is more underrated than people realize. Levante Bentley has been coming on really strong. Brennan Gant had a strong game against Arizona State. So I would give them a C minus. Then the secondary, I'd also go C minus. They're big play reliant. They get beat a lot, but they will get you some turnovers. So I think for that reason, they don't get a D. And yeah, it's tough because you're grading a team that is 4-2, and you would think that they don't have a lot of flaws, but this team they're just a really big play team, and that kind of hinders them and helps them at times. And obviously, when they can't get big plays, it makes their life difficult. But when they do get big plays, it makes everybody's life easier. You know who else makes life easier is the Jace Medical case. The Jace case. Jace Medical is sponsoring this episode of Locked On Buffs. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jace case is to fill out a simple form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you're not hoping that you have to access medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure that you have the medication on hand, and Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation care. Don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off on these on life-saving antibiotics from Jace Medical by using my code locked on at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE at medical.com. JASE medical.com. Go check them out. Go be safe. Welcome back. We are talking about Jaylen Ellis, a Baylor transfer wide receiver who hasn't had the impact that I think he would be hoping this season, but there's still a lot of time left in the year. There's still some time to carve out a role. He hasn't recorded a catch yet, but he did do something that I think deserves a lot of attention. And I think as an animal lover myself, he saved 2 animals, and I think he just showed the humility and kind of the culture that Coach Prime has not only built, but has brought in, because obviously Jaylen Ellis, high culture guy, even before he came to Colorado, great guy from Baylor, it seemed. So he was on a hike. Let me just tell you a little quick story. On a hike or in the mountains of Colorado somewhere. And he finds not only a kitten, like a 2-month-old kitten, but he finds a dog, and he finds stray animals. I guess you could leave them. You could just be like, maybe they're someone's pet. Maybe I don't have time for this. I'm a college athlete, college student. No, not Jaylen Ellis. He took them into the Humane Society, made sure they were taken care of, washed them, bathed them, gave them a place to sleep, and then he adopted the dog, which the dog was, if you see the dog, had a rough hairdo, got a nice little trim after Jaylen took him to the groomer. He adopted the dog, and he took the cat in, and the cat is up for adoption because he thinks that it was a kitten. So everybody likes little puppies and kittens. So the cat's gonna be adopted. So I thought that was a really cool story, because in college football these days, especially with people coming at Colorado for being so cocky and kind of like a cocky team that nobody likes, we're getting to see the human element. We're getting to see how good some of these people are, and Jaylen Ellis is just a prime example of that. And I think he makes everybody proud in Boulder. He makes the college football world proud with his efforts. So I just want to make sure that Jaylen Ellis got his shine. Go check it out. There's a video online. I wrote about it over at Athlon if you guys want to check that out. Of him, it was his TikTok, which you could go check that out. I just have it linked in my article. So if you want to go check out both, go do that. He saved them, took care of them, and now he has a new best friend, which he named his dog Angel. So welcome Angel to the Ellis family, and welcome Angel to the Boulder family. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Prize Picks. Let me tell you about Prize Picks, because if you guys like money and you like sports, this is a perfect place for you. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. For example, you could try Saquon Barkley for more than 60 yards, Patrick Mahomes for more than 2 touchdowns. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. If you want to get in on the PrizePicks action, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit, match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit matchup of up to $100. Go get in on that Prize Picks. Go win you some money. Lastly, to conclude this episode, obviously Colorado plays in 2 days. They're playing Stanford, which is another team I cover, and another team that I'm quite familiar with. So I wanted to go over Stanford's key players, and I wanted to go over them because even though the Stanford team is 11.5-point underdogs, I think they bring a lot to the table that people don't realize, because every team in the Pac-12 has talented players. Every team is good in their own right or good at certain things, and I think Stanford is one of those teams. So key players: One, Justin Lamson, quarterback. Stanford uses two quarterbacks. They have Ashton Daniels, Justin Lamson. But Justin Lamson is the dual threat quarterback. I think, and this is kind of a crazy stat, and I don't know how sustainable it is, but while I bring this up, Stanford's offense line is pretty rough as well. They haven't given up as many sacks as Colorado, but I think they've given up 18 on the year, and they just have issues protecting the quarterback. Justin Lamson is a dual threat quarterback though. The past 2 games he's combined for 45 carries. And he's had the least amount of carries he's had per game was 9. So he comes in, he could run, he has a big arm, and he will take off when needed, especially with this Stanford offensive line that struggles. They often struggle to protect him, so he runs when he feels like it's needed, which appears to be a lot. Running backs. They have 3 running backs that I think Colorado should look out for. EJ Smith, which is the son of Emmett Smith, Cedric Irvin Jr., and then Casey Filkins. All 3 running backs are tough runners. They're all physical runners. And I think with a kind of, I don't want to say a weak defensive unit, but a unit that struggled to stop the run, I think this would be a huge game for those Stanford running backs to kind of, or at least Troy Taylor to kind of feed them, because he has said the key to stopping Colorado's offense is keeping them off the field. So they're going to look to run the ball. And so if Colorado can't stop the run, that's going to pose a huge issue for if Colorado can't stop the run, it's going to be a huge issue for that Colorado defense. Tight end, Benjamin Jurasik is one of the best tight ends in the country. Doesn't have the numbers that I thought doesn't have the numbers I thought he'd have, and doesn't have the numbers that most people thought he would have. He has 15 catches for 227 yards and a touchdown, averaging 15 yards per carry. But because the offensive line is so bad, he's been used a lot to block, and so he hasn't had the production that many would think. Over the past few weeks, he's kind of quieted down. He didn't have a catch against Oregon, had 2 against Arizona, didn't have a catch against Sac State, had 4 against USC, and then 9 against Hawaii in week 1. So if the offensive line can hold up, then he's going to get the ball. It just depends on the offensive line. Receiver, freshman Tiger Bachmeier. Tiger Bachmeier, the brother of Hank Bachmeier, former Boise State quarterback, current Louisiana Tech quarterback. He is kind of like, his numbers aren't huge. Nobody on Stanford's offense has huge numbers. They're just kind of an offense learning and trying to fight for, I guess, an identity. And Tiger Bachmeier has made some huge catches. And I think that both the quarterbacks, Ashton Daniels and Justin Lamson, like throwing to him. So those are the guys that you guys need to look out for. Tomorrow I'll be discussing players that I think for Colorado that may have a big game. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Locked on Buffs. This has been another great episode. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen. I hope you guys have a great Wednesday, and I will see you guys tomorrow.